Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions, where real people share the stories no one else dares to. I was scraping letters off the old mailbox when her email came in. Not metaphorically. I mean literally her name. Marlena Reese. For 15 years, it sat just beneath mine like a stubborn scar. I finally decided to remove it because my landlord asked, and honestly, I just didn't want to explain it anymore to delivery guys. I had just peeled off the final E when my phone pinged. Subject: just wondering if you're okay. No sender name. But I knew. I stared at it like it was radioactive. I hadn't heard from her since the day she walked out without shoes, dragging a suitcase down our driveway and telling me not to follow her. I didn't. I just stood there holding a half-burnt grilled cheese like it was some kind of lifeline. And now she's wondering if I'm okay? I could barely breathe. I dropped my phone on the floor of my studio apartment. It landed screen up, and for some reason, I felt like it was mocking me. I picked it up with hands that suddenly felt sweaty and cold all at once. No apology. No explanation. Just wondering. Let me be very clear. I'm not some dramatic guy who writes poetry about pain and cries during toothpaste commercials. Okay, maybe I do cry during toothpaste commercials sometimes, but only the ones with the emotional music. And only the ones with dads. Anyway, the point is, I'm not fragile. Or at least I didn't used to be. But this message cracked something open. I didn't open it. Not yet. I just stared at it and whispered out loud. 15 years. You don't get to ask how I'm doing. But clearly, she thought she could. I couldn't stop myself. I went to the bathroom mirror and looked at myself. I looked older. Not wise older, just tired older. Like someone who still hadn't fully come back from something that wrecked him long ago. And maybe I hadn't. You see, Marlena didn't just leave. She detonated our life like it was a failed experiment. And the worst part? She left for someone else's husband. That story, I'll tell you next. But for now, all I could do was stare at that message. Wondering, is this closure? Or a new kind of wound? The night she left wasn't stormy or dramatic. No thunder, no screaming. Just the soft hiss of the dishwasher mid-cycle and the faint smell of frozen lasagna in the oven. Her favorite, which I'd heated up because she texted me she was on her way. That was at 6:42 p.m. At 7:23, she walked in wearing the same dress she had on that morning. Black, wrinkled, smelled like expensive cologne I didn't recognize. She didn't kiss me. She didn't look me in the eyes. She just walked past me, straight to the bedroom, and began pulling clothes from the closet like she was late for a flight. When I asked her what she was doing, she said, "I can't lie anymore, Elwood. I've been seeing someone." I stood there like an idiot with oven mitts still on, asking, "Since when? And who?" Like any of it would matter. She didn't answer, just kept packing. When I asked if it was Chandler Donovan, she froze for 2 seconds. That's when I knew. She didn't deny it. She just said, "It's complicated," and zipped her suitcase like she was done with her part of the conversation. That's all I got. No reasons. No apologies. Just the clink of a zipper and the front door closing behind her. The dishwasher beeped as she walked out. Done washing dishes I would never use again. The next morning, I found a crumpled gas station receipt on the kitchen counter. Timestamped 2 hours before she came home. It wasn't local. It was from a city 3 hours away. I guess that's where they had their little goodbye picnic or whatever married people turn lovers do before wrecking other people's lives. I kept that receipt for years. Why? I don't know. Proof that it happened? A sick trophy? Some pathetic part of me hoped I'd wake up and discover it had all been a dream, and the receipt would be gone. But it stayed, like a paper ghost. After she left, I couldn't sleep in our bed. I moved to the couch for 2 months. Didn't touch the TV remote. Didn't talk to my neighbors. They whispered, though. I could feel it in the way they waved from further away. How the lady next door left a casserole on the porch but didn't knock. Everyone knew. Everyone but me until it was too late. And now she wants to know if I'm okay? I laughed. Loud. Bitter. Scared myself, honestly. But a small voice inside me whispered, "What if she's broken too?" That voice is dangerous. I know it. But it's still there. And tonight, I'm going to open her message. Heaven help me. I opened the email at 2:47 a.m. I had stared at it so long my eyes burned, but sleep was impossible. When I finally clicked it, I braced for a wall of text, some dramatic monologue about regret, redemption, or therapy. But no, it was short. 4 lines. I don't know if you still hate me. I wouldn't blame you if you did. I just wanted to say, I'm back in town, and I'd like to see you if that's okay. That was it. No punctuation, no signature. Just sent from my iPhone. Like this was a grocery list and not a return from the dead. I sat there in silence, rereading it over and over like maybe more words would appear if I stared long enough. Nothing changed. The dishwasher beeped again, this time because I'd put in a single cup earlier, just to feel like I had a routine. Her message was still open on my screen when I finally typed a reply. I don't remember the exact words, but it was something like, I'm not sure this is a good idea. I hovered over send for a while. My hands were shaking. I clicked it and instantly regretted it. The next day, she responded in under an hour. Just coffee. I'll be at Lark's Diner on Wednesday around noon. If you don't show, I'll understand. But I'll be there. That was it. No pressure. No drama. Just confidence like she already knew I'd come. And I hated how right she was. Because the truth? I was going to go. Not because I forgave her. Not because I missed her. But because for 15 years, the story of us had ended with a slammed door and a suitcase. Now I had the chance, no, the curse of hearing how it really ended. Or worse, how she thought it should have. On Wednesday, I put on the only button-down shirt that didn't make me look like I'd been living under a bridge. I trimmed my beard, put on deodorant twice, and stood in front of the mirror longer than any grown man should. I told myself it was closure, that I was strong now, that I was doing this to move on. But the truth was uglier. I was desperate for answers, for validation, maybe even for a crumb of remorse that I could chew on for the next 15 years. When I walked into the diner, I almost turned around. She was already there. Same dark hair, shorter now. Same eyes. But her posture different. Not confident. Not broken either. Just waiting. She looked up, and her face didn't light up or crumble. It just opened. And then she said, "Hi, Elwood. You look tired." Not, "You look good." Not, "I'm sorry." Just tired. I sat down anyway. The way she looked at me over that chipped diner table wasn't the way I imagined it in all those midnight fantasies. I used to picture her begging. Tears streaming, makeup smudged, words tumbling out like broken glass. But Marlena didn't cry. She stirred her coffee like it held secrets and said, "You probably want me to start with 'I'm sorry,' but I don't think that would help either of us." I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for her. 15 years later, and she still knew how to disarm me with one line. I nodded, even though I hated how easily I fell into that same rhythm with her. She asked how I'd been. I told her the truth. Not great. Never really great since she left. I thought maybe that would hit her like a slap. Instead, she just said, "Yeah, I figured." And then she did something I never saw coming. She pulled a photograph from her purse. A teenage boy, maybe 14, maybe 15, with her eyes and a jawline that looked disturbingly like mine at that age. "His name is Eli," she said, laying it gently between us like a loaded weapon. "He's ours." My mouth went dry. My body didn't move. I laughed. Not the funny kind. The kind that bubbles up when your brain breaks in half. "That's not possible," I muttered. "Because we didn't have kids. We tried once. We failed." She told me we'd try again later. But instead, she ran off with Chandler Donovan and shattered whatever future we had. "I didn't know I was pregnant when I left," she whispered. "And when I found out, it was too late. Couldn't come back. I didn't know how. I felt like I was falling down an elevator shaft with no end in sight." "Why now?" I asked. "Why tell me now?" She hesitated, and then looked me dead in the eyes. "Because he asked who his father was. And I didn't want to lie anymore. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw that photo across the room and walk out and never speak again. But I didn't. I just sat there, trembling, staring into the face of a boy who never knew I existed. And the woman who stole 15 years of his life from me had the nerve to ask, "Do you want to meet him?" Couldn't even breathe. He didn't look anything like I imagined. I stood outside the community center where Marlena said they'd be, palms sweaty, stomach twisted in knots. I'd spent the last 2 days staring at that photo like it held all the answers to my broken life. But photos lie. Real life hits harder. When I walked in, she was already seated on a bench near the vending machines, and next to her sat Eli. Our son. My son. I said hi, the way you might greet someone you accidentally bumped into at a grocery store. He just stared. No reaction. No curiosity. Just guarded silence like I was a math test he didn't study for. Marlena introduced me as an old friend, which stung more than I expected, but I went along with it. We talked awkwardly about school and his favorite video games. He gave one-word answers. I tried not to sound like I was auditioning for Father of the Year, but I failed miserably. My voice cracked when I asked if he liked baseball. He said, "Not really," and then looked away like that was the end of the conversation. Marlena left us alone for a bit, probably to give us space, which only made things worse. The silence between us felt like a canyon. I asked if he knew why I was there. He shrugged. "Mom said you were nobody for a long time. Now you're supposed to be somebody." I flinched. It wasn't mean, it was just honest. Blunt. The way kids are when they haven't been taught to soften the truth yet. I nodded slowly, trying to hold back tears. "That's fair," I said. "You have every right to be confused. Or angry. Or not want me around at all." He tilted his head. "Are you gonna leave again?" That question tore something loose in me. "I didn't leave the first time," I said too quickly. "I didn't even know you existed." He blinked. "So what now? You just start showing up and pretend to be my dad?" I had no answer. Because yeah, that's exactly what it felt like I was doing. Pretending. Fumbling through a role I didn't audition for. Before I could say anything, Marlena returned, holding 2 sodas and a forced smile. "Well," she said brightly, "I think this went okay, right?" Eli didn't answer. He just stood up, grabbed the soda, and muttered, "Let's go." I sat there alone, feeling like I just met a stranger whose life I was never invited into, and whose trust one may never earn. I should have known she wasn't done with me. Marlena never did anything without a reason, even if it wore the disguise of good intentions. After I met Eli, I told myself I was done, that I had given him a chance to know me, and whether he wanted more or not, the ball was in his court. But 2 nights later, she texted again. "Can we talk? Just us." I ignored it. Then another, "It's about Eli," and something else. That vague tone, like bait hanging from a hook. I told myself not to take it, but of course I did. We met at the same diner. This time I didn't bother shaving or dressing up. I wanted her to see what 15 years of silence looked like. She smiled when she saw me, but I didn't return it. She got straight to it. "Elwood, I know this is already overwhelming, but I need to tell you the real reason I reached out." I tensed. "So it wasn't about the kid?" I asked. She shook her head slowly. "It was. But also, I'm sick." My stomach dropped. "What kind of sick?" I whispered, like the volume might protect me. "Autoimmune. Aggressive. I've been through treatments. Some worked, some didn't. But now, the doctors say." Her voice cracked for the first time, and I hated that I still felt something stir in my chest. "They say it's time to prepare him, and I want you to be in his life before I can't be." That word, "can't," hit harder than I expected. I stared at the table. "So you want me to take care of him?" I said flatly. "Just like that." She didn't answer at first. "Not just that. I want you to know him. He deserves that. And so do you." My hands trembled. "You kept him from me for 15 years, and now you want me to. What? Forgive you? Rescue your guilt?" Her eyes welled up. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for help. He's a good kid, but he needs more than what I can give now." I wanted to scream. I wanted to leave her sitting there with her untouched coffee and her perfectly timed confession. But I didn't. I stayed. Because something in her eyes, something raw and terrifying, told me this wasn't just a trap. It was a goodbye disguised as a handoff. We walked in silence through the park behind the high school, the one with the crooked benches and the rusted swings. It was his idea, not mine. Marlena had arranged it, told me he was willing to meet again, but only if it wasn't awkward like last time. I didn't even know what that meant. I showed up because I said I would. I kept my distance, let him set the pace. Eli had his hands jammed into the pockets of a hoodie 2 sizes too big, and he kicked at the leaves like they'd personally offended him. I tried to make conversation, asked him if he'd seen the new superhero movie, but he just shrugged. I almost gave up right there. But then, out of nowhere, he stopped walking, turned to me, and asked, "Why didn't you try harder to find me?" The question hit me in the chest like a brick. I blinked. "I didn't even know you existed," I said, my voice shaking. "Your mom. She never told me." He nodded, not surprised, not angry. Just tired. "Yeah, she said that. But still, if someone took my kid, I wouldn't stop looking." I felt the ground tilt under me. I didn't know anyone had taken anything. I thought she left and that was it. He looked at me like he didn't fully believe me, and maybe I didn't blame him. To him, I was a man who vanished before he was born. A name he only recently learned. "You look like me," he said suddenly. I hate that. That one stung worse than anything Marlena had said. "I get it," I said quietly. "But I'm still here now." He didn't say anything. We walked another 10 minutes. Then he asked, "Are you going to stay even if she dies?" And just like that, the real weight of it landed. He wasn't testing me, he was preparing for loss. For the first time, I didn't feel like a stranger trying to insert himself into a kid's life. I felt like a man being asked to carry someone else's world when it's about to collapse. "Yes," I said, and my voice didn't shake that time. "Even if she dies. Especially if she dies." He didn't reply, but he didn't walk away either. And that felt like the start of something I didn't deserve, but maybe he did. Marlena passed quietly on a Tuesday morning, just after sunrise. I was there. So was Eli. He sat on one side of the bed. I sat on the other. Her breathing had grown shallower overnight, and by the time the nurses told us it wouldn't be long, I'd already started saying my goodbye in my head. But when it finally happened, it wasn't the dramatic collapse I expected. She opened her eyes, looked at me, not as the man she betrayed, but the man she once loved, and said, "He's more you than you know. Show him the kind of man I never let you be." Then she closed her eyes, and that was it. No last gasp, no tears, just a stillness that felt bigger than silence. Eli didn't cry, neither did I. We just sat there, suspended between what was and what might come next. After the funeral, he asked if he could stay with me for a few weeks. I didn't hesitate. We didn't talk much those first few nights, but by the fourth, he wandered into the kitchen at midnight and asked if I still had my old guitar. I pulled it from the closet. It was dusty, out of tune, but when I played a few chords, he nodded and said, "Teach me that." And that's how it began. Not with forgiveness, not with some miracle reconciliation. Just a kid asking to learn something from the man who never got the chance to be his father. Slowly, we built something that wasn't perfect, but it was real. He started calling me L at first, then hey, and eventually just once, Dad. I didn't push it. I didn't need to. That one moment was enough to know we were healing, both of us. Marlena may have broken the story in half, but somehow, Eli and I started writing a new chapter. One without betrayal, just the quiet kind of love that takes root when no one's watching. And I think she knew that would happen. Maybe that's why she reached out at all. Not to be forgiven, but to make sure he wouldn't be alone. Thank you for watching Reddit Confessions. If you've made it this far, I have one question for you. What moment from history would you go back and change if you could, and why? Comment below, subscribe for more stories like this, and remember, sometimes the past doesn't need to be perfect to give you a future worth living.